Hi everyone, my name is Mark Kennedy. I'm a partner with Mazars, and I'm here to talk about the Mazars C-suite Barometer, which is the survey we do every year of C-suite leaders around the world and in the UK to gauge how they're looking at the next year. So this year's C-suite survey, which was done in the early part of 2023, has introduced 5 major themes that I'm going to talk about today. The first big topic that came out of the survey this year was leadership looking at economic volatility. Energy prices are obviously very high, and they've remained so, particularly in the UK. Interest rates have risen, and that looks like a trend that's going to continue out into 2024. And I suppose the third big issue that's behind a lot of change is the trade issues that are there. And what we see is I suppose relationships developing on that front. The UK government is now much more focused on developing relationships with the EU and on playing a global role to address some of these macro challenges. So after a period of a number of years where we've seen a retrenchment in terms of international relations on the economic front, I think what we see as we go towards 2024 is a renewal of that, and Britain playing a much stronger role again in the development of responses to economic challenges. A lot of C-suite leadership are looking at the development of new technologies, and when we did the survey, a lot of the focus was on artificial intelligence and on automation, and we've seen even in the first 6 months of 2023 a real leap ahead in terms of generative AI becoming a market tool widely used, and there's a long way to go on that journey yet. Today what we're seeing is relatively limited application cases, but many businesses are beginning to look at how this new technology can be employed in their business very quickly for productivity and other reasons. So with that opportunity, we see a lot of challenge because it introduces a new vector in terms of risk management and controls over data, and that's something that C-suite leadership will be very focused on. So the next big theme that came out is, unsurprisingly, sustainability. And the UK has a strong position here, having had a reporting framework in place for a number of years. However, we see a lot of change as we move in, again towards the end of 23 and into 24, and that's being driven, I suppose, by 2 factors. First of all, on a macro level, the news in terms of climate change is worse than had been hoped, and we're getting a lot of feedback into the business community on that. So a lot of business leaders are renewing their focus there and trying to look at how their strategies will help address this challenge. The second issue that we're starting to see is the impact of changing regulations in other jurisdictions, particularly in the EU. And what that means for a lot of UK businesses who are subsidiaries of or trading with EU companies, the reporting regime that comes into place next year for large EU entities will start to have an impact on the business of UK companies. So that's going to be a significant change again, and potentially a challenge for a lot of businesses. The next big theme that we've seen in the C-suite survey, again around the world, but particularly in the UK, is dealing with the new paradigm in employment structures post the COVID period. So we've seen the themes around people working from home continuing, a lot of challenges around getting numbers into the workplace. This is creating issues around the education of younger staff and the training that they get, which is difficult on a remote basis. There's also a macro issue in terms of availability of human resource to work in a lot of industries. And that's the product of a number of different factors, but it is proving to be quite a weight on businesses as they seek to expand and grow. The other issue that comes out strongly is a very strong focus, particularly in the UK, on diversity and inclusion. And while there's a lot of work being done there, what the survey tells us is that actually the results aren't as strong as many leaders would like. So we see that continuing to be a theme, and many companies running more formal initiatives in that area in the coming years. The last big trend we've seen, which possibly wasn't captured in the 2023 data, but will be captured going ahead, I think, is the trend towards the 4-day week, which, mixing with people who are working from home, is creating quite an interesting dynamic in terms of productivity management and in the relationship side of being in a business together. And the last topic which we've picked up in the survey, and probably the most significant in terms of percentages, in that over 80% of respondents pointed to a strong sense of optimism as they were entering 2023, despite the challenges that they recognised. That, I think, is based on a very pragmatic understanding of how resilient those businesses are. And I think also reflects that many business leaders have cut their teeth over the last 10 years in quite challenging circumstances. So they have a sense of their own resilience and how to deal with difficult situations, and of the strength that they've built as businesses over that period. So that leaves us, I think, in quite an optimistic position, despite some of the challenges that are inherent in the survey and that we see around us every day, as we look ahead to 2023 ending and into 2024.